case they bring it up again.
Hey, there we go. The little warnings come up. We're live on YouTube. I'm going to be doing some button pushing shortly. Welcome to the MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch. I am your host, Mitch Kamich. I am the Savage in Business today. As always, I'm joined from my brothers from other mothers, Paul and Matt. And we got Dawn and Shannon live as part of our band to sit there and do their talkie bit today. And we set the table last week for class warfare. Is it a good idea? No, that's not going to be our topic today, but I'm sure it'll slip in, and we're going to, I've picked at least one secret word of the day to see if that shows up in that side of theme. So we'll find out if we're going to get there shortly. I'm going to do a little bit of button pushing. I'm going to get us prepped and ready to go. But otherwise, we are live as always on Friday and coming to you. I'll let everybody else do the introductions. I'll turn the floor over to Matt first. We'll cycle through that. I'll finish the button pushing, and then we will get started for our usual song and dance routine about the week that was in business. Matt, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mitch. Matt Hewson, one of the coaches here at MCC. Today, I am your broker of certainty, or BOC, and it's simply this. I want to be able to, week after week, speak with these small, medium-sized business owners as people, as a community, and understand what's keeping them up at night. And if we can help bridge the gap and help solve those problems, let's do so. I think that there's so many times we get so invested in our own business that we're no longer necessarily relevant in our industry. And that's been a comment that I've made to a couple of my clients and close friends. And I say, listen, let's look up, let's see what the problem actually is, and let's see what the playing field is. So I look forward to the conversation today.
Mm-hmm. I'm Paul Falkowski with MCC. And, I love the lulls and then the craziness of business. And all of us as business owners go through that. And we have a tendency to ignore other areas of our business and focus on this area over here because it needs so much attention. Meanwhile, the spinning plates are falling off on this section over here. So, it's a matter of bringing things into focus, keeping people on task, and keeping it easy. Let's put the systems in your business. Let's keep you on track. Let's have that one page so you know where everything is, so it's not spinning around in your mind. And you can do the tasks that you need to put your attention to.
Hi, I'm Don Veerboom from Four Tree Coaching. I help, again, small, mid-sized businesses. They must need a lot of help. All this team here has to go for it. But I think that's because I work for large companies and they can afford all the big VPs of marketing and sales and HR and all that kind of stuff. So the things I learned up there, I think I'm taking down to the small, mid-sized business and say, hey, you can take advantage of those tips and tricks and tools and experience that they have. And that's what I bring to you, some fresh eyes on your business to make it hum.
Make me next. Sorry, I had to go out for a moment. So I'm Shannon Berry. I am part owner of Mad Women VA. Basically, you've been lied to if you've been told that you can't get time back because you can just buy some from us and it'll help you make more money. So we'll help support your business and help you grow your business, and you won't even have to do anything extra for it.
Fantastic. I'm just finishing up the button pushing. Matt, why don't you tell them a little bit about what to expect for the show here in a moment? I'll be done this, and we're going to dive into it like we always do on any given week.
Well, what I love as Paul's cat goes through the screen is that it really is, there's no script. Mitch kind of keeps it close to his chest himself. So what we're going to expect today is some real authentic conversation. It's going to be what we believe to be true today, knowing that may change tomorrow. And, for myself, I've worked with hospitality, I've worked with hotel, I've worked with casino. And right now I just want to work with anybody that needs it. And like Shannon just mentioned, your biggest commodity right now is time. If you can't invest more time into a specific part of your business, offload that to somebody that has done it before, like the people in this room, and allow them to make sure that it's done and done right.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got that one going on. We got one more panel joining us here. So the week that was in business, and I'm going to go back to our studio as well. Here comes Lorette. She's coming in to join us. Lorette, good to see you as always. While your audio's clicking up and you're pounding in here, great to see. I know that we're going to have Justin, our resident debt expert, popping in here shortly as well. You let me know that he's coming behind. There's a lot going on in the world right now. Don, Class warfare. We talked about that last weekend. What does it mean and how do we get started? No. We're not going down that path. Or are we?
Well, if I can mute you. Okay. All right.
Is there swearing allowed on this?
Fuck yes, swearing is allowed. We've checked the little box. We're good to go. It says not suitable for children. So the odd bad word can slip out when we're talking about class warfare. We're not talking about class warfare. We're talking about economics an awful lot lately. We've talked about finance. We talked about inflation last week. Class warfare becomes part and parcel of that sort of stuff. I'm not telling everyone what the secret word of the day is. That's why it's a secret word of the day. We don't talk about that even internally. Jeez,
I can't say it if I don't know it.
Exactly. The secret word of the day is you don't know, right? Yes, that's the secret word of the day. That's what we're going after. No, but for us, when we come here week in and week out, we talk about the stuff that's relevant to business. And so I'm going to do something that happens every so often, every few episodes, about once every 2 months or so. I'm going to turn the floor over to the panel today. We're seeing problems and challenges on a daily and a weekly basis. We're experiencing them for our own business, and we're watching what's going on in the greater world out there, and we're bringing it home here. I go and I hunt for them. I go and find the prized acorns or the thought-provoking ideas that businesses should have. But every so often, I got to turn it over to the panel. I got to say, hey, you guys come up with it. And it wouldn't be true to the nature of this show, which is to see how we're dealing with it in real time. Now, I'm going to segue for a moment. Business is iterative, meaning that you live with a lot of changing situations every day. You wake up in the morning and what happens today is different than yesterday, and what happens tomorrow is going to be different than today. So we try and rely on processes or systems. The incorrect nature of that thinking is that you cannot process or system drive an entire little business because it becomes too rigid. There has to be some sense of malleability. So you have to have a sales system to make sales work, and you have to have a marketing process to make that work, and you have to have a hiring and an onboarding process to make that work. But to try and tie all that together in one box is an exercise in futility. Business becomes too rigid, fails. So much like business, we leave the nature of what we talk about every week organic to what's happening in the market and maybe even what's happening to us. So that being said, today is going to be you know what really grinds my gears? No, not what pisses you off, but there are challenges and problems that we uniquely have faced or that we have watched and experienced. And I want every member of the panel to bring up one challenge or one problem that they've either experienced or watched this week. And let's talk it through to problem solve for other people. Because what happens one time is not unique. It isn't. It is often shared experiences. There's only a handful of things that can go wrong in a little business. And even when you transition from small to medium, the biggest complexity is people. The people make it more complex. The business itself is still really simple. There's only a handful of people trying to sell. There's only a certain number of products or services you're taking out to market. There's only a certain number of ways those products or services can break or not work, and you got to warranty or serve them or fix them. And then there's only a certain number of ways to talk to vendors and suppliers. There really is. There's not an infinite number of all of those things. There's actually a finite number of things. As businesses get bigger, you just add more people that can make decisions or could transact off of them. So this show is all about staying iterative. Why? Because it's what we're experiencing every week is what you are experiencing every single week. So with that, the panel, the floor is open today. I want to hear something that came up was unique and challenging in the past week. And as a panel, we're going to take it apart, put it back together like we always do and offer our opinion. And that's how we're going to fill our time today. Fair rules of engagement. Good place to start. Okay, let's get after it. Who wants the floor first? Who's got an axe to grind? Don?
Yeah, well, you got my axe. Yeah. No, it's a challenge. As you know, I've spent a lot of time in the sales world, developing salespeople and sales process and all that kind of thing. And so this week I hear that the world, they did a survey and 47% of people don't want to deal with a salesperson anymore. They want to automate their system so everything's online, do this or that or whatever. And you've probably seen these ads for a used car place that you buy it online, they drive it in a trailer to you and they drop it off and you can check it out. You've never touched it or met the buyer. they didn't have to deal with anybody at the car dealership or the used car guy or whatever. They just pick it, and then if they don't like it, I think you have a week to give it back. It's like, is this the demise of the sales process system, or do we have to really get creative, and how we present? Because we're all of us present our services by voice, by in line, but does people want coaching that they don't actually talk to you for a while until they make a decision? It's like, it's kind of throwing me off.
Mhm. Who's up first?
Don, I was on the same thought because I wanted to talk about the closing script, like actually close the deal. And like in order to close the deal, there's systems in place, right? But like the average person doesn't want to talk to someone. But I know it goes down to values, right? You only do business with people you know, like, and trust. And like my first year of business, so it's my third year, it took like a whole year to get someone to trust me and to have someone to work with me, right? And then my second year, it was like maybe 4 months. And then I can finally get down with my closing script to about 2 weeks. And then someone will say yes. But like I have the same problem. Like mine is just the final end game, right? Because I've been in business for 3 years. I've been networking for 3 years. But like I'm finally at the cusp of like private institutions are talking to boards about me, but like the board has to decide if they want to work with me or not, right? So like that's another upscale of a level. But like, damn, business takes a while. Like the closing script and the selling, it doesn't happen in a second. It does when you get used to it. But like I was just reading about MTV, and I don't know his name, but like Derek and the factory thing or whatever. He freaking owned MTV, right? And so at the beginning, he was like, I'll make and find sales for you guys, right? But like at the end, he was creating sales for himself. And like it's just fascinating, right? Because once you do it, it gets easier and the more contracts that you get, right? But like your first year of business, your second year of business sucks. Like my first year of business, I teach unique selling proposition. I suck at like unique selling proposition. That's what's terrible about business is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like business is like the Wild West. It is like a lion stalking its prey. So, that was a lot of talking, Lorette, but that's what I had to say about that, Don.
Okay.
Well, and I'll chime in a bit too, is that, right now we're going through so much continued adjustment, like I smirk because I'm pretty sure one of my family's vehicles was on that cargo container ship that burnt down, right? Because they ordered a VW, and it's all of these higher end vehicles. And it's like, oof, now that isn't like a picture of first world problem. I don't know what is, right? But from a sales technique, now those individuals that sold the vehicles now need to go back and be like, hey, 100% not my fault. Like nothing to do with this is the fault of the salesperson, but now they're going to get a clawback. They're going to get all these things. And because of the change management, change leadership, you want to be able to elevate. And I think businesses are just in this really interesting space of, I need to change my sales process, which means that I'm going to go back to the being bad at it before I can get good at it, before I can be great at it. And all of us right now are just pissed off and really impatient. We want it to be good and seamless, but it's brand new. So I think there's, again, that challenge of how do we now train somebody that, like, I train the trainer. I love that, but nobody's trained to do that type of sales process. So it's really one of those disruptors. And I look forward to seeing how it all plays out, but I'm curious as well. And like, great topic for sure, Don.
I'll just chime in really quick too. I think we're seeing a major change in business. We don't have just traditional business anymore. We don't have traditional sales processes anymore. It doesn't work for everybody or everything. There are some businesses like Lorette's where, you have to be face-to-face and you have to get in there because you're dealing with multiple entities and people and that sort of thing. But there's this whole world of online now. And the old adage of you do business with people you know, like, and trust is starting to become very weak. Because a lot of the places that I shop from, I don't know the people behind that business or that company. They had the product that I wanted at the price that I wanted with the shipping terms that I could agree to. And so I bought it. Right? So there's so much business that's happening these days where we don't even know actually who is behind that online store, who is, and we're still buying from them. And so the automation process, and that's what's frustrating me right now, is the automation process, because I'm a very visual person. So if I can't see it in front of me and how it works and where it connects, I have difficulty setting it up. But I'm a virtual company. So automated sales process is essential to my business. It's how I do my reach out through LinkedIn. It's how, and yes, we have myself and my partner, and yes, we do videos and we've got social media. But when we do those campaigns, the people that initially see my business or see the company have no idea who we are when they do their first reach out to say, hey, I'm interested in the services that you provide, right? They don't get to meet me until after they've already been introduced to the company. So it's a completely different sales process. And I think we have to start getting into that and wrapping our brains around the fact that sales are shifting. And there's very few areas now where we need to rely on that traditional sales process.
Paul, thoughts?
I see it morphing that way as well too. Great topic. And I see sales being more of a support, the troubleshooting within that process and providing the answers. And, I'm seeing AI take on more of that responsibility, or, you can connect with somebody online. I definitely think there needs to be improvement with that, because, having a better understanding of the client, or a better set of answers, creates a better experience overall. How frustrating is it that the AI isn't answering the question that you have, or now you have to call a 1-800 number and sit for 45 minutes to get a simple answer. So I think that's where the streamlining of the process for sales is going to be more in that support side, and continue with that follow-up for that add-on or next purchase.
Well, if I can, and Don, I'd actually like you to comment on your own question a little bit too. But if I can, we're seeing a difference, if we can call it for a moment. So let's call it what it is. Class warfare in business, the ones that have or don't have when it comes to technology, AI, et cetera. It's actually not that prohibitively expensive, but we are seeing a differentiation, a division, if you will, between those that are making an investment in the technology or the way that works, as opposed to traditional sales or outreach. We're seeing companies relying more on marketing and audience attraction and targeting to get in front of, with landing pages, specifically appropriate keywords, targeting negative keywords that are removing, and being able to filter and really nail down into not just the target audience, but the specific individual. When you add in visual cueing like video, et cetera, you almost get a sense of what that person is. And then when you go to a website, to Paul's comment for a moment, if I come to a website and I'm there right now and I see a number, I don't want to call that on, your business is losing a sale. But if I show up and I've got an auto bubble, which we all think is irritating as hell, and whether it's the AI or a human being pops up on the other end, and I've got something to navigate right now, the engagement rate off of those is actually increasing. So I'm almost getting answered in real time from a customer service standpoint to validate that. So the better companies are at mapping that experience, or integrating with AI, et cetera, or having that question comment feature built in, then the better off you're going to win that war. Because from the class war, and I'm sorry, we're going to be beating that to death for the rest of today, Don, since you introduced it last time. But, the class warfare, if you will, for business isn't whether or not I've got more money or less money than you. It's whether I'm actually willing to invest in automating a sales process, potentially backing it up with AI, online chat, and real-time conversations, perhaps instead of a traditional salesperson that would be going out to make those inroads, connections, or even cold calls, cold contacts at the front end. We're starting to see that division happen. There are businesses so firmly entrenched in, I only work within my community or in the form of traditional cold calling or relationship building sales. Then there are those that reach out regardless of circumstance or wherever the businesses are in the world. And then there are those that are investing in that technology bubble that we're in right now to attract that. So Don, your thoughts?
Yeah, just in my own business, I've spent quite a bit of time doing like LinkedIn relationship building with people. Have hundreds of people over time that you reach out and start having the conversation, and you're just trying to see how they might relate to your business, and if on the slim chance they might need it. So the it's all switched now. So it's now attraction, like you say, Mitch, attraction marketing. So I'm setting up all these systems so that someone who shows interest on a Google search or a Facebook ad or something goes to a landing page, asks for your free book or your assessment or ticket to your webinar or something, and they go down another email stream and drip this and drip that. And if that doesn't work, they go over. So that whole process is now funneling without you. Whereas before, I used to think, I need to be right in front of these people, and do it. And now people want to say, I want to see your video in your website so I can predetermine what you're like. I don't want to have to talk to you, till way later on the process when I'm finally getting my check ready, or maybe not. Maybe they want to hit click and sign up, and they've found all that information. But it's really switching, from and I think that's kind of hard on our egos, where we think, we used to have to get our face out there and do that, and now it's like I have to sit back and wait and let this machine, funnel these people down to the final decision process. So it's like, ooh, it's kind of scary.
Absolutely. Justin came in a little late. He'll be joining us on camera here in a moment, but it is always intriguing to consider the possibilities of what happens next. Now, I go back to a video that is now 4 years old, and this video was done off of the stage of Google at their internal conference, where they had their AI, they had their Google Assistant make a call and book a reservation at a local restaurant. The AI itself called and booked a reservation, and it adapted in the midst of the conversation. So, the technology, that's not there, and that's stupid, and we'd know, and we'd want to do this, we do that. No, you don't. It's whether or not you want to make the investment. Now, some of it is still prohibitively expensive from a small business standpoint. Some of it may still cost thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. But the bulk of what's being discussed today is all within the realms of possibility of setting up now. Chats, real-time automation, using VA services or AI to answer the most common questions that your customers or clients. And understand, for a business to successfully automate this for a moment, what are the 4 or 5 or 10 questions most commonly being asked by your customers? The people that have already used this or this to talk face-to-face and have already paid you. What are the most common things they're asking? If you put that into place, it doesn't take much AI to be able to answer those, which are the ones that are going to validate people that may or may not buy your stuff. To consider making an investment little or big, or having to learn to change the way your marketing or your website is, to add landing pages, to provide more information, to shoot video on that. This is all, quite frankly, the glowing box that sits in our pants pocket most of the time, or sits probably within 6 feet of us. In fact, either you're watching this on your phone, or chances are it's in your hand, right? Or it's within 6 feet of where you're sitting right now. So not to make those adaptations would have to be something, and we're all guilty of it, based on time, circumstance, what our personal beliefs are. But the buying experience isn't changing, it's evolved. And the automation does not have to come at a dear price. And it doesn't mean that you don't get a chance to talk to people, but it doesn't mean you have to change the way you're doing it. So maybe that's the new sense of class warfare. See, I brought it up again. Maybe that's the new sense of class warfare for us. It's businesses haves and have-nots that are willing to invest in technology.
Maybe, yeah. It's like the digital versus the analog. VHS versus beta. Look out.
Okay. So my best business last year was easy because it was someone else told someone else about my service, and then I got money. And the exchange didn't happen in me. I didn't sell my services anymore. Someone else sold my service to someone else, and then they came to me, right? That's the best business. But that's only done when you build trust with other people, right? Why does your first year of business suck? You don't know anyone. Why does your second year of business suck? You're still developing relationships. That's why most people fail in their second, third year. But if you spend time with developing relationships, then you have a whisper market, right? So I love the whisper market. I love business because it's not really what you know, it's who you know. Because again, I make most of my money off of the people that I know, like, and trust, and they trust me. And then they do a little whisper and they tell people Lorette's amazing, right? I can say I'm amazing all I want, but I need some backup people to be like, Lorette's amazing. Go talk to her. And that's actually where I get a lot of my business from. Know, like, and trust. And like Shannon was like, no. And I'm like, yes, business is only done that way.
My challenge is this. What happens if I just go onto one of the large social media platforms, look at who has the most organic reach or the most followers, and just drop them a big lump sum of money? Here, work in my product into your day. And like, there's a family out there that had a reality TV show that built billion-dollar businesses off of influencing based off of product placement. Like, and my hope is for the youth out there that may be watching this in the near future, it's a commercial. It's a 15-second, it's a 30-second commercial. No matter what social platform you are on, the people that are at the top tier with the blue check mark are getting paid. So the shirt that they're wearing, the shoe that they're wearing, the makeup they're wearing, like whatever it is, it's a commercial. You have to know that. So for me, I'll challenge you, Lorette, to say, I know, like, and trust a lot of people, but if I can get The Rock with 330 million followers to say, hey, dude, I really like Matt Houston, here's why.
That's an element of it. I will agree, right? Because business is multi-layered. But some little Instagram person that sells scarves for dogs was like, Lorette, I think you're pretty cool. I want to send you some free dog scarves. So like, anyone can be an influencer. Like, we talk about influencers like the most randomest person that has 1,000 followers. The average person doesn't have 1,000 followers. So like, within your inner circle, if you wear something, someone else will wear that. And like, oh man, I didn't want to go down this hole, but like, vibrational energy and vibrational pull. You are attracted to people that like you hang out with. You have the same thoughts, you have the same ideas. You really only hang out with people that you like. That was my discussion.
What dog scarves? Because now you've done the product placement for them, so good on you. Make sure you get paid.
No, I didn't say anything to them because I don't know them, and they didn't.
Anyway, let's get back on track, Mitch. Sorry.
We selling dog scarves now? Is that Don? Is that what we're talking about? Is that what class warfare is? If you can afford dog scarves, it's too late. It's over.
Yeah, you know, the dogs with the have scarves and the have not ones. Like, there's a big discrepancy here. Why is that?
Why is that? Let's dive into that. You know what? I'm going to close out this topic because it's been fascinating. We've drilled 20 minutes on it. And I can also see us spending the rest of today just staying in here. If we started going, okay, what do people have to do to do it? I just finished watching a video last night. And once more, video has become my primary content engine. Now, I produce a bunch of video. I've produced a bunch in the past. We're doing it right now. We're going to shoot 40 or 50 or 60 minutes more content. And every week, my business produces at least another hour of content to go out into the interwebs. Whether people are engaged or not right now, they come back in the singles and dozens and hundreds, week over week, over and over and over again to watch. And by the way, I've noted, hey, the beard looks really good. That's why you should come back and keep watching, right? And everybody else is pretty attractive on here too. So at least we got a good looking audience to show off, the good looking panel to show off to everybody else. But for the video that I most recently watched actually discussed this, and this is where the class warfare comes into for the people that are at the front end of it right now. Brand new entrepreneurs are getting started, and it's not even in the influencer space per se. It is in the audience space. So we use the word influencer. Now let's use that in relation to sales for a moment. Their job is to try and get up against some of the wealthiest in the world, or some of the wealthiest in their city, or some of the wealthiest in their region. And we're not talking Dubai or anything like that, or even Miami. We could talk anywhere. But we're seeing people consistently in places like LA and Miami and New York and Chicago and Dubai doing these kinds of things. And once more, it's not to create an influencer environment. It's to attract an audience environment because they're becoming useful by creating a new service. In fact, they're not even selling anything. And what are they doing? We're talking 18, 19, and 20-year-olds right now that are making a steady 5 and 6 and 7 figures, thankfully, because they have gone out and the first thing they do is say, hey, can I ask you a question? And I'm going to do it with the glowing box in my hand. What is it that you do professionally? What makes it different? If you had to start over, what would you do? I'm doing this to get information. I'm doing it to get out here. And it's not even about, are you okay with me having the camera on or me going live? They're waiting around outside of country clubs, business centers, the airport, etc., talking to the wealthy and the influential already and saying, listen, 30 seconds, what did you do to get rich? What would you do if you had to start over, right? And what do you think of cryptocurrency? What do you think of investments, etc.? Thank you so much. And they're not even going after, you wouldn't believe the 10 rich dudes that I talked to. They're like, this is who I interviewed today. This is really smart. They're starting to generate an audience. And because they're doing this, their audience isn't the followers they have. That is social validation or social proof, like going to find the person with the blue check mark or wherever it is. But what they're actually doing is creating a brand new environment where they're not even asking to sell to who? The wealthy and the rich. If I'm here asking you a question and I'm going to live to Instagram, clearly you understand what's going on. If you understand what's going on, you've asked these questions, who's the first person they ask for help in return? They're creating their own internet engagement, marketing, influencing, and socially relevant businesses as consulting agencies targeting the richest and the wealthiest by providing a service. They've made no ask for sales. And their sales engine is TikTok or Reels or Instagram or Twitter or YouTube. It's staggering. So we're already watching a shift in the marketplace by the people that are the fastest adopters of technology. Now, is it the only way to sell? No. There's still something to be said amongst the 7 of us on this call right now. If each of us talks to the other about our businesses, and yes, a few of us share the same industry and 3 of us share the same business. But if we all have a conversation, the likelihood of doing business increases. But if I bring everybody on here and let you share that sense of influence and your own communities have a look, we're sharing the sense of our influence. It creates a common purpose, but a common collective point. If I trust that person, I should trust that person. 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 And all the way down at the bottom of my screen is Justin. We should trust that person too. So this is where the change in sales and that mentality is starting to come in. And that's moving us away from the traditional picking up the phone. And see, I still do that. We don't do that anymore. We do this, we push the button and we yell, right? Or we put the earbuds in, or we get the pods out of the case. We don't even pick the phone up anymore. Like, how dated is that? The phone isn't even shaped like this anymore. The phone is shaped like a brick. But I don't go, hold on a second. I do this now. I'm like, okay, I got to pick up the phone and dial somebody. No, you're not. I'm going to yell at Siri to dial a number. And I'm going to put these in. And I'm going to look like I'm crazy talking to myself. But even that doesn't happen the way it used to anymore. And so we're seeing that evolution happen in the form of sales. Dawn, close this out. Final thoughts, and then we'll go on to the next topic.
I think it just speaks to that you need help in your business these days because the whole aspect of selling is changing rather quickly. You may still be in the traditional mode or be more advanced or somewhere in between. And I think talking to other people, getting mentors is so important because they bring another perspective that maybe you're not aware of. And I think all of us here are part of this to kind of widen our own experience and make sure we're versed in what's happening out there so we can help others understand it. So it's a good topic. Well done.
Fantastic. Don, thank you so much, brother. All right, Matt, what you got for us this week?
2 things. So first, it kind of segues from the previous conversation about like influence versus knowledge. Again, I'm going to say some successful people's names. Let's say that, right? Some media stars. The Kardashians built an empire based off of what? So I had my 11-year-old ask me, how did Kim Kardashian become famous? And if we really recall where she became famous, I can't repeat that. Maybe on this video, but I can't repeat it to her, right? Like, that's terrifying. So anyway, I just it's knowledge versus influence. I think for sales is like something that is going to go away. Like, you needed to be the best you needed to be a technician. Well, now you don't. You need to be refined, Lorette, using some of your words, but all you need is influence. And if you can do that, I think the sales team is going to elevate, right? So that's kind of my takeaway on that. And I would like you guys to think about how I'm going to answer that question that my daughter posed, because I would like to get your feedback. But my question to everybody today is, do you buy or do you lease or rent? And that can be residential, that can be equipment, that can be commercial property. We are in this strange time where, like, even in the last, I think, 72 hours, basis points went up. So money became less valuable. Property became more expensive, but less valuable. Like, what are your thoughts on for clients that are moving into brick and mortar, or should they move away from brick and mortar?
Okay, Jackass. There we go. That right there has, I think, been more the marketing style in the beginning, right, to get attention seeking on that side. And as far as the Kardashians, you could just say that they had a famous dad, and you can say just like myself. So
there you go. There you go. Yeah. And then what do you think, being the real estate professional, should companies be looking at leasing because of available inventory here in Alberta? Should they purchase because money, like interest, is still fairly reasonable? Although, again, I think it went up by 0.5 point in the last week. What are your thoughts?
What industry are you in? Is this expansion for you? Are you related to an industry that has a lot of ups and downs? What's on the horizon for the next 3, 5, or 10 years within your industry? And I'm always thinking of why just rent? Why just lease? I will always buy more space than I need and lease out the other space. One, because it helps for me in expansion when it comes along. And two, if I can lease out the other spots, the intention is to have my payments paid for by my tenants. So it really depends on your industry and how you've moved going forward. How can you, where are interest rates going to affect you? Supply chain. What are the choke points within your industry? What's your competition? What's your moat? What's protection that you have within that? But also, real estate is another category that you can spin off. So owning and then leasing, can actually reduce your expenses overall. And now it's time to look at, if you are going to be moving into a space, think going forward that rates are going up. So if you can lock in, and if prices and wages and everything are going to increase, then that just means you're locked in at a lower rate. So in essence, you're saving, and you're going to be able to pay that off faster.
I think there's a case definitely for buying business, a location and going. But the flip side, Paul, would be that the world is changing so much. Like you asked me 2.5 years ago, should I buy a business and put in my 25 office people in there to work in the office? I say, well, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then I'm looking at it 2 years later and thinking, there's only 5 of us in here, and the other 20 are working from home. Like, what is your business going to be changing into in the next few years? Do you need the flexibility to go from, bricks and mortar to back to digital to maybe a little bit of office and maybe having a big piece of property hanging around your neck and that mortgage on it that could maybe restrict you, versus you say, I don't really know how this thing's going to turn out in the next 5 years. Maybe I need to be a little more nimble. So maybe there's going to be some great deals out there on office space, or different things. So there's sort of two sides to that coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I like the mixed, right? So you're not pigeonholed into, okay, I'm only in office space. Maybe it's a little bit more of an industrial condo, so you can have the office in the front, and you can have rented out storage in the back, or sometimes you get those neighborhoods where you can take a house and actually convert it into a business, and we've all seen those, right? So you can have residential or business. It's always having options and choice with your decision in that, and where you see your business moving forward, or where you see the society or a business as a whole moving with technology. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you only have one out, not the best thing to do, unless if you're going to change your office space to living space.
Yeah. Yeah, this week I just connected someone who needed a little bit of warehouse space with someone who had some leftover at the end of the building. They're all in the front end, like you say, there are offices and there are people that came in, but there's a big chunk of just wasted space in the back. I found somebody who said, "Hey, I'd like to book that 1,000 square feet for my business, and we can cohabitate here." Perfect. And they're moving in like 3 days later.
That's awesome.
Justin, Lorette, Shannon, thoughts?
It depends on what your business needs are. Can you get away, especially, when we look pre-COVID in the industries that I've been part of, we never in a million years would have let our staff work from home. We were dealing with, it got to a point at one of the companies that I used to manage where they took away your pen and paper. You were given a whiteboard and a marker, and that's what you were allowed to write on because of the client data, the sensitivity. It's funny, those same companies that said not a hope in hell are you working from home are the same companies that are now going, okay, well, do I need to have 3 floors, 60,000 square feet in an office tower downtown? And in some cases, I think there's a lot to say for your business as to the type of business you're in. Your surroundings can really play a big part in what you're doing every day. If you're at home by yourself and you're in a quota-driven environment, not hearing the other people on the other end of the phone or not hearing the success stories can weigh on you. Right. I look back to running collection agencies. You'd get a certain hum on the floor and you just knew everybody was going hard. Right. And then when it was quiet, it was painfully quiet. So I think you have to look at your business needs and weigh out the pros and the cons. Going to what Paul said, having a mix, maybe you do 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, 2 days in the office, 3, or reverse that. But again, what are the business needs? For me, I like the idea of having the assets. From a lease point of view, okay, there's pros to that. From having the tangible asset, there's definitely pros to that. When you're looking at business expansion, when you're looking at being able to borrow funds rather than it just being completely weighted on your business financials, you've got a tangible asset that you're able to support it with. Banks tend to be, and lenders tend to be a little bit more open on wanting to advance funds at that point too. So when you're looking at it right now, I'm going to suggest your staffing and what your productivity has looked like, and then what your business needs are moving forward. Do you have a 2, 3, 5 year plan? And what does that plan look like for expansion?
Yeah, I got caught up in class warfare. So there's going to be some Lorette. I don't know what I'm going to say. So everything has to do with a pain point, right? So there's a pain point to buying, there's a pain point to leasing, and there's a pain point to rent, right? But we all pretend business is this nice, pleasurable game. Business is savage. Who's savage in business? Mitch, just saying. So really, what is the tenacity within you? We are on this thin scale of breakdown, and we could break down at any second, any day. So really, my thing is, I don't think there's 3 options. I don't think there's a buy, lease, or rent. I think people could just steal them and be like, whatever. And that's an extreme. But if you're going to the extreme of class warfare, this is no holds bar. We could have any other option besides just buy, lease, rent, savagely murder someone and take it away from them. I don't know. Did I go in the wrong direction?
Possibly. I might pause you there, Lorette.
Could I
Now
jump in
that
for
said,
just,
she did use the secret word of the day. So
but we still don't know what it is. So
What
yeah.
was
exactly.
it?
Anyway, my business is a newer model. It's virtual assistant. It's right in the name. So we're clearly more of a work from home basis. Now, with some of our future plans, I anticipate, because we're going to need to have that head office, headquarters for all the licensees and franchisees or whatever, however that plays out. We're going to need to have that, but I don't anticipate it being a large space at all. Just basically daily operational. Have to look at that when we get to it. But honestly, when it comes to the only thing I want to own are revenue properties. If properties are not making me money, I don't want to own them. I rent, I will rent. I've got a nice, beautiful luxury apartment that I'm renting right now. I'm completely happy here renting my personal space. I will buy properties that can make me money. I will hire somebody to manage them for me. Like, you know, and I also find that taxation wise, leasing has more benefits to it when it comes to that office space. So to me, it just makes sense because I have such a low overhead company. Why take on unnecessary overheads that you don't need to? Take the tax breaks and only invest in something that's going to actually be making you money.
So Paul, you know, I've got to take on this because this is a discussion we had last week.
Yeah, and there's also a difference here where, you know, there's difference between product driven businesses and service driven businesses too, right? So, you know, just to make that distinction on that side, you know, if you're in a service, yes, you have a lot more flexibility in what you can do. If you've got a product driven business, then, you know, you're usually tied to some sort of space, or you could be tied to somebody else.
Let me answer, not answer, but let me offer my opinion, if you will. You as an entrepreneur, now setting aside the need for brick and mortar for a moment, or where you can conduct business anywhere, are you in the business personally as a business owner? No, murder was not the secret word of the day. Great guess, Shan, but no, murder was not the secret word of the day. So we're still hot, but Lorette used it. Are you in the asset collection business personally as a business owner? Or are you in the revenue generating side of things? Now you're going, well, isn't that the same? Every business needs to make money. Every business needs to make money. I'm going to set you aside for a moment. Is it more about the process of running the business because the profitability and the cash flow is what's really important? Or you want to build up a pile of stuff that you own later on? If you want to build up a pile of stuff later on, then owning your things instead of leasing them. Now, leasing has certain better tax implications than just straight ownership, but ownership gives you that asset to collect, whether it's in your business or in your personal name for a moment that you can use later on, and that should, in the case of things like property, increase in value given a long enough period of time. Ideas of collecting assets, things and stuff, instead of just looking at revenue or cash flow as your primary purpose or primary driver when you're going into business every day, then makes perhaps a little more sense straight into leasing, because that leasing is something that can be tied off to your business. However, a more sophisticated layer of thinking is to marry both together. Long-term accumulating assets is always better than only chasing cash flow or revenue. Why? Because cash flow and revenue is always going to ebb and flow. The last 2 years has always done that. It has done that to such extremes and such volatility that right now we're sitting in a weird spot. We are in many parts of the world emerging from a pandemic, even though COVID is still here. But we are also seeing a lot of businesses that are doing better business, but there's still very little money, tangible money available. You know, the number of clients that we see in our business, you know, Paul and Matt and I on a day-to-day basis, that are struggling for cash flow, even though business is flowing regularly, is staggering. Why? It tells you how little money there is available. Well, didn't the US just print blah, 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 and didn't the Canadian government follow suit? Well, then it didn't go to places where it's most of us have physically more money to work with. Or when we talked about inflation last week, it deflated the value. So the dollars we do have literally don't go as far, and we don't have enough left over at the end to do things or pay for enough of everything we do want or need. So accumulating assets means that if I personally take something on, and so here's really going down the rabbit hole. You go, Mitch, it sounds like something the wealthy use. Well, it's something the wealthy use because they're smart enough to do it, but it's something that almost anybody can do if you can actually qualify for things like a house to start with. Save your money, park your cash first, buy something, an asset in the form of property, and then rent or lease it to yourself personally. Get your business to buy your house, or lend your business the money to buy your house and rent it back to yourself. What? That sounds far too complex. You're saving from a tax standpoint and asset accumulating on 3 or 4 different fronts doing this. And yet the idea of home ownership is becoming further away from people until you look at what's going on, let's say the condo market. So if you're going to run a business for a moment that's product based, you need a physical or a commercial place. Can you own it? If you can own it, can you lease it back to yourself? Can you rent it out to other people? Is there someplace else that you can share rented space on? But if you can, lay your hands on that piece of property yourself. If you have a service-based business, is there something that you can take on that no longer is in your name? And it's not the only solution in the world, but it is a hybrid of being able to answer that question, should you buy or should you lease? Lease from yourself if you're going to do it. Buy the car for your business and rent it out to yourself. Or buy the car personally and lease it to your business. Buy a home inside of your business and rent it to your family. Buy a commercial property, lease it to somebody else, and use the little bit of space you need. There are a hybrid number of ways to marry both those ideas together. It takes some learning, it takes some planning and some education. But that time-honored tradition of, should I lease a car or buy a car? Both. Now, a car depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot. But in our exact current marketplace for the moment, used cars are worth more now than they were 6 months ago, even though they've aged 6 months further. So the likelihood of getting more of your value back off of it increases. But if you buy that in the form of your business instead, and your personal use is now separated in the form of a rental agreement, that is revenue offsetting costs that you're still spending money on anyway. And it's not personal income being taken by you to make your car payment. Blows my mind as I continue to go down these paths. And this is how the wealthy and the really sophisticated operate. So leasing, renting, and buying do all three. But if you structure it the right way, you can lease or rent from yourself in many respects. And that's where you will start to find different advantages from a financial standpoint than where we're at now. Matt, Paul, you got a comment?
One part in that is don't rent to your family or your friends. That's class warfare, because your family is never going to pay you.
Never going to pay you. Don't buy a house and rent it to your brother. Buy a house and rent it to yourself.
Rent it to a stranger or yourself. You'll thank me later.
That was our real estate guru talking. So, pay attention. All right, Matt, final thoughts?
No, great. And great feedback. For me, it's, we brought up supply chain, and the reason why new and used cars are inflated is that there's just no capacity there, right? My hope is that people will look at their 84-month or 96-month term on their lease rate of their $150,000 pickup truck, realizing that it is going to depreciate. And when that bubble bursts, you're going to be on the hook for all 150K at 2 points, 3 points, whatever the points are. And you're going to need to be able to leverage that in a way. So it's got to pay for it, right? And that's just something that we're having conversations about quite a bit. But thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
And Justin's going nuts in the chat right now. Buy new if you can rent to yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Shaking his head. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Not on a vehicle. For all of the people that I know in the auto industry, I love you. I respect you. Don't buy a new freaking vehicle.
No, you can say the bad word. It's okay. I checked the box. It says not for children.
I did say the bad word. I said freaking.
Fuck. Okay, you got me there. Anyway, we got that out of the way. All right, we are at 12:55. It is the virtual business box lunch. Final thoughts for the day. I'm going to start with Shan. Shan, final thought, 30 seconds. What do people got to pay attention to, and what do you think from today, and what do they need going forward?
I think people need to pay attention to what we've always been paying attention to. Business changes, marketplaces changes, inflationary rates go up and down. We need to be tuned into what is best for our business. We need to keep our eyes on how all of that is changing, how that's affecting our business, and what the best decisions are in our current circumstances are for our business. That being said, too, we've got to make decisions, reach out to people. You don't know what you don't know. That old age term is something I will never let go of. And there's people out there that do know and are willing to help you. So never be afraid to reach out and ask for help and get the guidance that you need to navigate through these cycles so that you can be successful.
Fantastic. Lorette, what you got?
Class warfare is a real thing nowadays. And so like what you think is going on and the people that have the power do not have the power anymore. And there's a new system coming into play. That's all I got.
Justin.
I don't want to follow that. So somebody else, and then I'll follow them.
Oh, damn.
Dawn.
I like the idea of learning from the rich and taking things that they have or they do and applying it to us so we can level out the playing field. And certain things like investing in crypto, Forex, or things like that, there are now ways that make that affordable and not so scary as it used to be. So alternate forms of income.
Mm-hmm. Justin.
All right, now my turn.
Hope I knew.
While cash is king in a lot of areas, sometimes putting yourself out there to help people that are struggling can go a lot further than the $100 or $200 or $300 you might make off of doing something. While business is business, there still has to be a humane part of your day-to-day life. And if you see somebody hurting, somebody struggling, and if it's not going to break the bank for you or kill you to take 20 or 30 minutes to help that person, just do it. That's all I've got to say to that right now. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Paul.
Oh, Matt stepped in there. You want to go?
I just was going to say.
No, you can't go. Go ahead. No, never mind. It's my turn.
Class warfare.
What was I going to say? What? Did you just say asshole?
This is class warfare, and Matt keeps turning on and off his microphone.
I'm going to say that supply chain isn't as bad as everyone thinks it is. Take a look at Peloton. They shut everything as far as their production is concerned. So I'm looking more at the product side. Everybody's bought the shit that they needed over COVID. It's moving more towards the service side. So watch for that. A lot of companies are going to have a lot of supply just in their warehouses, dead capital.
Love it. I was going to mimic what Justin said, which is like analysis paralysis needs to be over. Find somebody that knows, pay them for it so that you can move on into your core cash business. But like fight, flight, or freeze, quit freezing. Just go to and quit being a student, become the master. And the only way you're going to do that is by doing it.
Panel, brothers and sisters, we have drilled another one in the can. My final thoughts for the day: buy things. It's okay. You can buy things. Maybe not new cars, or Justin's going to personally come to your house and have words with you. And if we only see him from the neck up, you do not want Justin on your front doorstep. I'm telling you, he shows up to talk to you about buying a new car, you are screwed. And he might be able to take your new car from you anyway. But sit there and buy things. It's okay to buy things, but buy the things that are most essential. Buy things that last. It's okay to buy used. It's okay to buy new. Next, don't be afraid to sit there and think about the way you want that to work for you differently. Invest in a will. Invest in a trust. Get your house parked in your business. Rent it to yourself. The things that you need in life, buy through your business and rent to yourself, lease to yourself, or hold them there because they're depreciating assets. And when I buy a car, let's say it is new for a moment and Justin doesn't show up in my house. Now that I've got it inside of my business, every year that car depreciates, I get to write down my taxes with it. This is what even the smartest amongst the cheapest of the wealthiest understand, and what they pay a good accountant for. A good accountant doesn't cost a lot of money, but a good accountant is going to save you on taxes. If you have a job and not a business for a moment and you're watching this, you are paying the highest marginal tax rate out of all of us. The moment you own a business and it's incorporated, your personal tax position will be lower. So if you can write off your rent, you can write off your lease, you can write off your car payment, your mortgage, your utilities, your groceries in some respect, every single thing you do. Hell, we are not financial planners and lawyers, so not bound by a code of ethics here. I will say this: Do you want to write off gift giving at Christmas? Buy gift cards first and then buy them on gift cards and write it off as a marketing expense. Mitch, you can't say that. I can, because it's part of tax code. It's not illegal or it's not wrong. It's literally part of our tax code. You can write off things like gift cards for promotional expenses. Think about what you do on a regular basis and how you spend money, and look to do it smarter. And if you don't know how, find a resource, look it up online, or for the love of God, there are so many videos now by people smarter than you doing this stuff right now that aren't rich, that are poor, and it's making their life better. It will make yours better too. Lastly, and where we started the topic for today, it's too damn late. Your competitors may or may not have made a change in the way they're marketing and advertising. If they haven't yet, you need to be the first one in line, because otherwise they will eat you. 100% guaranteed they will eat you. The failure rate in the pandemic is higher now than it's ever been before, yet more people have started business at any point in time. Guess what's going to happen? Inevitably or eventually, in a staid or a more established industry, one of those competitors is going to start doing something the new way. Why? Anybody under 40 is using this to make decisions. And if your business ain't talking to them here, you're screwed. Start to look to adapt and innovate and put the people component in the right spot, which is to help people understand things, solve their individual or unique problems, and if necessary, close the deal. But if the traditional method of calling complete strangers isn't necessarily working in your industry, or it's getting tougher to get a hold of them, then change the way you do that with people. If you do it, your business will be more successful. Find a different way to do it. Once again, it doesn't have to cost a lot. You're going to have to spend something. Find resources, find intelligence, study, invest in yourself, and change the way you look at money. And for the love of God, change the way you sell. You will make more because of it. And be ready to be adaptable, which is part of what we discussed as well. Lorette just bounced off. Shannon, as always, thank you so much. Justin, my brother, it's good to see you. Don, my brother from another mother, thank you so much for coming, brother. It's always great to see you on every week. Paul and Matt, couldn't do this without you guys. Love you to pieces. I heart you. And to our audience out there and those people that get to see this in the coming weeks, months, and years, this is the MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch. I am your host, Mitch Kamich. This is the March 4th episode in 2022. All hail our robot overlords. Who knows when we're going to be watching this in the future, right? And until next Friday, this time right here, we'll be coming to you with the week that was in business, helping to innovate, insight, delight, educate, and more importantly, cause something thought-provoking about business. Have